Primus, black licorice, and the horror movie sequel. What do all these things have in common? Most people, probably including you as well, think that they suck, but you're wrong! Primus is great, and the raw, unrefined horror movie sequel is a staple in the horror cinema experience and needs to be appreciated for what it actually is. Movie makers taking successful ideas and cranking them up to the max, whether that's good or bad. It's usually bad, which ends up being good. You know what I mean. So today, I'm going to be your spirit guide and take you on a journey through the wild and disgusting ride of the horror movie sequel with my top 5, with number 1 being my absolute favorite and the rest being in no particular order. And before we move on, if you get a kick out of this video, make sure you give our little spooky channel a like and subscribe down below. Hopefully it'll eventually pay for my pork rind and juji fruit addiction. Number 5, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Now, Nightmare on Elm Street 2 has been met with a lot of controversy even since its initial release, but before we get into that, here's what the movie's about. The Walsh family moves into the old Elm Street house that has been sold since Freddy's first romp with the local teenagers. We meet our protagonist Jesse, who not only stumbles upon Freddy's glove in the basement, but also gets stumbled upon while breaking out some of the greatest dance moves we have ever seen in probably any movie ever. Jesse, over the course of the movie, is taunted by Freddy in his dreams as Krueger slowly tries to take over Jesse's body entirely so he can kill again. This movie was dubbed one of the gayest horror movies ever made. Why? Well, it's laced with tons of homoerotic subtext that can't be ignored, and there's honestly a great documentary about it on Shudder or Amazon Prime titled Scream Queen that talks about all of the main characters' trials and tribulations and experiences while making this movie as a gay man not ready to come out in his career. Also, unfortunately for this movie's success, when looked at it with that particular perspective, it came out during the height of the AIDS epidemic in the 80s when our attitudes towards our homosexual friends was pretty shitty. It's a new age, we're new people, and it's 2021. Who cares if Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is super gay? I think it's great, and that's nowhere near a valid excuse not to like this movie. I love having a non-typical cool guy or pretty girl as the main character for this kind of movie. It mixes it up, it's different. Nobody likes vanilla every day, except Hank Hill. Mark Patton absolutely kills it with his performance as Jesse, and although Freddy Krueger looks absolutely ridiculous chasing teenagers around a pool party, Robert Englund still brings it home with yet another killer display of Freddy's power. Nightmare on Elm Street 2 needs to be given another shot. Why? Because it's a new age with new perspectives, and because I said so. Number 4, Maniac Cop 2. Have you not seen Maniac Cop 1? Well, you got work to do. In short, Maniac Cop is a Friday the 13th, but with killer cop Matt Cordell, who has come back from the dead to bring terror to the streets and killing innocents to get revenge for his untimely death. Detective Jack Forrest, played by one of our favorites, Bruce Campbell, is on a hunt to solve the mystery of Matt Cordell after being framed for the murders. Maniac Cop 2 takes off exactly where the first movie left off, and although we don't get very much of Bruce in this one, we added one fratelli, Robert Davi. Davi plays Detective Sean McKinney, the new handsome lead role cop who is now after Maniac Cop, who somehow, someway survived the first one. How? Why? Who cares? This is a horror movie sequel and we just roll with it as we go. Turns out Maniac Cop is now teamed up with a Times Square serial killer, and they share a weird relationship and living situation very similar to the blind man in Frankenstein and Son of Frankenstein, or Michael Myers and that homeless guy from Halloween 5. This movie is what it is. It's your typical slasher with a different skin on it, and instead of running around a camp killing teenagers, we're running around the underbelly of New York, which is super disgusting and gritty, and I love it. And not only does this movie tick all the boxes for me for what I'm looking for in a horror movie sequel, you'll find upon watching it that a lot of the bits in there are hauntingly relevant to a lot of the issues we have with policing today. Number 3, Halloween 3. It's called Halloween. It doesn't have Michael Myers in it. I'm well aware. Who gives a shit? Alright, now we can move on. Name arguments aside, this is an absolute banger of a Halloween movie. And no, not that kind of Halloween movie, this kind of Halloween movie. Focus. Halloween 3 Season of the Witch follows Ellie Grimbridge and Daniel Chalice, aka Tom Atkins, who is in a slew of other great horror movies where women can't help but fall in love with him as they fight monsters together. Ellie and Daniel are out to solve the mystery of strange murders happening in town that seem to be related to Connell Cochran, the head of the Silver Shamrock Halloween Mask and Novelty Company. It's not too long before they find out Cochran's diabolical plot to brainwash or kill the children of America on Halloween using weird Stonehenge rituals, witchcraft, and clockwork robots. Now, if you're curious as to why this movie's called Halloween and it doesn't have Michael Myers in it, it's because Halloween was originally supposed to be an anthology series with a different killer and storyline every single time. The first Halloween was such a success that the studios wanted more Michael, so that's why we got him in Halloween 2. But after that particular failure, it was time for Carpenter to do what he really wanted to do, and he failed miserably at the box office. And in typical Carpenter fashion, when he does what he wants to do, he fails miserably at the box office, but we love the movies years later. Please try to look at this one through a lens where it has a different title, or it's just called Season of the Witch. It might be an easier pill for you to swallow. It has everything I personally want in a cheesy, over-the-top horror movie, and has definitely become a cult favorite in these last few years. So give it another shot, it's definitely one of my favorites. Number 2, Hellraiser 2, Hellbound. We are truly getting to the cream of the crop, and you know how I can tell? Because the gloves are off, and we are talking about a movie that doesn't necessarily fit the mold that these other ones do, because it's absolutely fucking good all across the board, and that's Hellraiser 2, Hellbound. Following the events of Hellraiser 1, Kirsty Cotton is locked up in a mental hospital with total dickhead Dr. Chenard in charge of her and numerous other patients that he locks up in his dungeon to torture and attempt to learn the secrets of Beyond the Veil. Through the finding of the lament configuration, and with a little help from our old friend Julia, who's hot off the mattress, freshly reanimated and ready to get her life and skin back. Doing the usual Hellraiser runaround of sacrificing people and fiddling with a puzzle box, everyone goes to hell in order to either save their dad's soul or become a fresh new Cenobite ready to party. Now, I'm not trying to say the other movies on this list aren't good, because obviously I'm making a video about them, but Hellraiser 2 is a really good movie. Unlike most horror movie sequels that take one particular idea and go full throttle with it, normally ending with a cheesy or corny effect, Hellraiser Hellbound cranks it up to 11 and it freaking rocks. Clive Barker storytelling, top-notch practical effects, and a Doug Bradley that won't quit. Pinhead is probably my favorite horror movie killer of all time, and we get a teensy peek into his backstory in the movie, and of course anytime he's on screen, he's a character that demands your attention, and this one is no different. Now if you're gonna take my advice and watch any of the movies on this list, make sure it's this one. Number 1. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Part 2. Here we are, folks, number 1. And this sharp left turn from the source material hits all of the things that we've talked about that I love and are necessary to be a great horror movie sequel. It's over the top, it's more fun than serious, and it's all around perfect in every way. At least in my opinion. And that's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. The buzz is back. And this time we got buzz here, buzz there, buzz everywhere. Enough buzz for everyone. You wanted buzz? We got buzz up the wazoo, pal. Roll it. We're back in Texas for another bloody romp with Leatherface and his messed up family. In this bit, we have Vanita Brock, a local radio DJ who has recently had a run-in with a man, the myth, the legend, and his weird relative Chop Top, played by none other than Bill Moseley, giving it another stunning performance.
Shit! Hey, lick my plate, you dog dick!
But anyway, Vanita survives and eventually pairs up with the King Koopa himself, Dennis Hopper, who just so happens to be on a mad fucking rampage to kill Leatherface and his family to avenge his brother's death. The two end up following Leatherface and the gang back to not that ramshackle house from the first movie, but Texas freaking Battleland, which turns out to be a fun house of horror and the spot where they store the secret ingredient for their prize-winning Texas chili. Good luck to you two. I freaking love this movie. Does it make sense? No. Does it relate to the original source material in any way? Not really. Does it have a badass Oingo Boingo chainsaw-fueled bridge race where two frat idiots end up getting chopped into pieces? You bet your ass it does. This movie is like Stephen King, coked out of his mind, Maximum Overdrive style. Dennis Hopper is a total maniac and absolutely fun to watch. I mean, take a look at this guy's reaction. This is the absolute king of horror movie sequels as far as my opinion is concerned, and if you haven't seen it before, buckle up because you're in for a wild ride. Thank you all once again for watching this video of me talking about my 5 top favorite horror movie sequels. Make sure that if you liked this particular video, you click that like and subscribe button down below, or leave us a comment talking about your favorite horror movie sequels. Or tune into any of our Twitch streams multiple times a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. under Nightmare Fuel Streaming. Just like here on YouTube. We play popular horror and sci-fi games and just hang out with each other and chat with you guys. Feel free to hop on there to tell us our opinions are wrong, but you still like us anyway. Or if you want to interact with us on more of a casual setting to see what Nightmare Fuel is all about behind the scenes, check out our Instagram page also under Nightmare Fuel Streaming. Once again, I'm Larry Downs, and this was my top 5 horror movie sequels. Stay spooky, my friends, and we'll see you in the sequel.